So tonight, the aim of tonight is that we are recording. It's also for our members to hear how other people have published in the journal, to break down these barriers of professional historians behind the university walls, being the custodians of history. And it's intended for the journal to be wide. So over the last 2 years, we've brought in Interpreted Image, which is smaller, punchier articles. And we've also got a podcast for those that cannot be bothered to read. But tonight, the aim is to hear from those on the panel who have helped contribute. So I will read out their names, and if they want to come, this is in alphabetical order, not seniority or anything like that. So Ben is a legal historian and a doctoral candidate at the University of New England, and his thesis is on martial law in the pre-Federation colonies. Christine is an archivist, professional historian, and a former president of this society. She's also a past editor of the journal, and she's the current review editor for the journal. Christine, if you'd like to come up. David is an emeritus professor of history at Charles Darwin University and a former president of this society. And the journal published his first academic article, and in many ways was the making of him, in 1977. And Leonie is a tour guide and amateur historian who has won Bayside Council's Ron Rathbun History Prize 4 times for her local history research. She is also an active member of the Botany Bay Family History Society. And their lovely photos are behind them. Right. So we have... Thank you. So we have 40 minutes, 5 questions, 4 panelists. That's 8 minutes per question. Keep them accountable. So rather than rush through everything, we're going to invite 2 panelists to answer each question. Now, this took a disproportionate amount of time. So enjoy the PowerPoint slides. Okay, Ben, Leonie, what inspired you to submit your work to the journal, and how did you find the experience? And I'm sitting next to you, so you have to say it's good.
All right, I'll go first. The reality is I had never had any intention to submit anything to the journal. not as a hysteric. It was actually at the instigation of Alison Wishart, who knew that I had been researching Stannerville, and she suggested I submit something for the journal. So it was an interesting process. It was perhaps a little bit more complicated than I kind of thought. I've written a few things for local historical societies, but, well, tend to just send them along to the historical society, they check it for spelling and they go, okay. So it was a little bit more complex for this journal, I have to say. I mean, for a start, they do peer reviews. So we know we're being serious. So it's a little bit intimidating, actually, because here I am, an amateur historian, all these illustrious people here who have PhDs, masters, all sorts of qualifications. So that was a little bit intimidating, but it was definitely worth the effort in the end. And certainly I learned quite a bit from producing the item for the journal.
May I ask on that, what did you learn? That's not a question on the list, but...
What did I learn? Well, the peer review, it was a little bit like being an undergraduate and getting a professor to tell you what was wrong with your essay, which of course is a little bit intimidating at first. And then I thought, you know what? This is a great opportunity. I've got some professional advice and it hasn't cost me anything. I can make my work better. So I think I learned a little bit more about, don't just report the when and the where, but the why. You know, a little bit more analysis perhaps. So I had to put quite a bit of extra work into it after I got that peer review. And it was very clear that whoever had done it had put in a huge amount of effort and time and really thoughtful comments about it. So I was very appreciative of that. And hopefully when I write my next item, when I get some inspiration of what that topic might be, that I can do a little bit more of the analysis and the why as well as the what.
So I'm pretty similar to Leonie in the sense that I didn't independently have a craving to submit an article to the journal. But I heard from my supervisor that the topic that I was writing about, which is martial law in New South Wales in the early colonial days, was something that the journal was interested in, well, that Sam was interested in people including. So it was exactly the topic that I was writing in my thesis. So I immediately became very excited. I found the process of writing for it fantastic. It crystallized my ideas. I haven't got a PhD or a master's. I'm a Bachelor of Laws, but I did become a doctoral candidate in legal history. So I'm not a native historian, but since this was a history journal, my thesis on martial law sort of had doctrinal and theoretical elements, but I just wrote about the history mainly. And in researching that history, I had faced all the challenges that you will all know a lot better than me. You know, how do you frame the story? What do you put in? What do you leave out? How do you make it interesting and true? I guess lots of research is the a good start. And like Leonie, I derived a huge amount of interest and edification from the peer review process. They were quite critical, but also extremely helpful. What I really liked about the peer review was that they said, look, these are the things that you did wrong, and these are some of the research sources and some of the ways in which you could make your writing better. And I really valued that. There was some really good material there. So in writing the article, I had to work to a deadline, or two deadlines really, because I had to submit the second one after the peer review. And it was essentially a synopsis of the historical part of my thesis. So I got a huge head to start on my thesis. Found the whole experience really rewarding.